At my son's wedding, my daughter-in-law led me past the family table and pointed to a folding chair beside the restroom. "+1 sit there," she said coldly. I looked at my son, waiting to see what he would do. He simply lowered his eyes. I smiled, picked up my handbag, and walked straight out. In the parking lot, I made exactly one phone call. 20 minutes later, my son turned deathly pale as the entire reception descended into chaos. But he had no idea. I'm so grateful you're here with me on Silent Revenge with Auntie May. Before we go deeper, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from, your country or your city. I read every single one. And please know this story includes some fictional elements crafted for entertainment and educational purposes. Any resemblance to names or settings is coincidental, but the lesson behind it is something worth keeping. My name is Lorraine Whitfield. I'm 63 years old, and for 30 years I have opened the doors of my bakery at 4 in the morning, while the rest of Millbrook, Vermont was still asleep. Flour under my fingernails, burn scars across the back of my hands from 3 decades of pulling trays out of a brick oven that never once let me down. That oven raised my son. I want you to remember that before I tell you what happened at his wedding. I stood at the entrance of the Aldergate barn that Saturday evening in a pale blue silk dress I'd bought special. My chest tight with something close to pride, fairy lights strung across the rafters, long farmhouse tables dressed in white linen, and somewhere in that beautiful room was a chair with my name on it. At least that's what I believed. I scanned the family table twice. Whitfield, Whitfield. My eyes kept catching on empty spaces where my name should have been printed in gold script right beside my son's. Nothing. My heart started knocking against my ribs, slow and hard. "Excuse me," I said to the wedding coordinator, a young woman clutching a tablet. "I don't see my seat." She frowned at her screen, then looked past me, waving someone over. That someone was my daughter-in-law, Tressa Kingsley, gliding toward us in a dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment used to be back when I still had one. "Oh, Lorraine," Tressa said, her smile stretching thin and polished like frosting spread too far. "Come with me." She led me past the family table, past the sweetheart table, past every guest I'd helped seat with my own money, straight to the back corner of the barn. There, wedged against the restroom door, sat a single gray metal folding chair. The paint was chipped at the edges. The faint smell of bleach hung in the air. My stomach dropped straight through the floor. "There's some kind of mistake," I said, my voice catching. "I contributed to nearly every part of this wedding. The cake, the flowers. Half of tonight's budget came out of my own account." Tressa's smile didn't move an inch. She looked me over top to bottom the way you'd size up something that didn't belong in a room this nice. My hands, I knew, still carried faint burn marks from the oven. My dress, simple and modest, next to her family's diamonds and designer heels. "This is where the +1s sit," she said, flat and cold, like she was reading off a receipt. +1. 30 years of 4 a.m. mornings, and I had been reduced to a +1 at my own son's wedding. I turned to Corbin, standing 3 feet away in his rented tuxedo, and I searched his face for something, anything that looked like his father, anything that looked like the boy I raised alone. He wouldn't meet my eyes. His gaze dropped straight to his shoes, and he said nothing, not one word in my defense, not one word to his wife. My own son letting another woman humiliate me in front of 200 people and choosing silence as his answer. My throat burned. My eyes stung with tears I absolutely refused to let fall in that barn. I pressed my lips together hard enough to hurt, and I made myself breathe. I thought about the lakeside cottage keys sitting in my handbag, the ones I'd planned to hand Corbin and Tressa that very night, as a wedding gift, the deed already halfway through the paperwork, in my name, transferring to theirs. I thought about the wedding cake still waiting in cold storage, 5 tiers of hand-piped sugar flowers I'd built myself, stem by stem, over 3 sleepless nights. I thought about the premium floral arrangements, the vintage car service, the upgraded catering package, every single luxury that turned a basic barn rental into the magazine-worthy spectacle Tressa's family was taking credit for tonight. The Kingsleys had covered the hall and the standard dinner. I had covered everything else quietly the way I've always done things, because I wanted my son's day to shine. And what unsettled me most standing there in that corner was this. When Tressa walked me to that folding chair, Corbin hadn't flinched. He hadn't looked confused or caught off guard. His eyes dropped to his shoes the way they do when he already knows what's coming, and I felt something cold settle in my chest that I couldn't quite name yet. None of them, I realized standing there in that stiff blue dress, had the faintest idea what they were about to lose. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I simply smiled small and tight, tightened my grip on my handbag until my knuckles went white and turned around. I walked straight past the gift table, past the DJ booth, past every guest who watched me go, without a single word of protest, and out through the barn's wide double doors into the cold Vermont night. Behind me, the band kept playing. The party never even paused. But what none of them understood, not my son, not his bride, not her smiling parents holding court at the head table, was this. Every luxury dressing up that barn tonight was still just a promise. And promises, unlike wedding vows, can be taken back. I made it as far as the parking lot before my hands started shaking so badly I nearly dropped my car keys twice. I climbed into my sedan, shut the door, and sat there for one long moment in the dark, listening to my own heartbeat pound in my ears. Then I picked up my phone and dialed the one number I knew by heart, better than my own. "Denise," I said the second she answered. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "I need you to stop the delivery, right now. Don't let that cake leave the storage cooler." Denise has managed my bakery's back kitchen for 11 years. She didn't ask a single question about why. She just said, "Already stopped, Lorraine, what happened?" "I'll explain later," I said. "Load it back into the van. Bring it home." 5 tears. Hand-piped sugar peonies I'd stayed up 3 straight nights building petal by petal until my fingers cramped. That cake was supposed to be my gift to my son. Instead, it rode back to my bakery in a refrigerated van, while somewhere behind me in that barn, 200 guests were about to discover there was no wedding cake at all. I heard later from one of the servers who used to work banquets with me years back exactly how that unfolded. The hall staff panicked. Somebody drove to the nearest supermarket and grabbed whatever sheet cakes they had on the shelf, wheeled them out on a cart, and started slicing. A bridesmaid snapped a photo of one of the boxes before anyone thought to hide it. Right there on the lid, in bold yellow letters, it said, "Manager's Special 50% off." That photo made its way around every table in that barn within 20 minutes. I wasn't there to see Tressa's face when it happened. I didn't need to be. My phone buzzed again before I'd even turned my car onto the main road. It was Orson, an old friend of mine who'd known my late husband since high school, calling from somewhere near the barn's parking lot. "Lorraine," he said, and I could hear engines idling behind him. Voices raised, someone honking. "You all right? Corbin's out here, trying to flag down every car we've got. Wants us to run the wedding party back to their hotel." Orson and a handful of his buddies had offered their vintage cars for the wedding free of charge, no payment, just as a favor to me. A cream-colored Cadillac convertible for the newlyweds, 2 vans for the out-of-town guests from the Kingsley side. All of it arranged through me months ago, back when I still believed I'd be sitting at that family table tonight. "Don't," I said. My voice came out flat, final. "Don't drive anyone home tonight, Orson." There was a pause on the line. Then Orson let out a low whistle, the kind that meant he already understood more than I'd told him. "They put you in a folding chair by the bathroom, didn't they?" My chest tightened hard and sudden, like something had closed a fist around my ribs. "Something like that," I managed. "Say no more," Orson said. "Consider us done for the night." I hung up and gripped the steering wheel with both hands to keep them from trembling. Behind me, back at that barn, I knew exactly what was happening next. 200 guests stranded with no ride home. And somewhere in the middle of that chaos, my son panicking, pulling out the black card he'd been swiping for 2 years, like it belonged to him. It didn't. That card was an authorized user card tied to my bakery's business account. I'd added Corbin's name to it years ago, back when he was still in college, back when I still believed helping him meant giving without limits. I never once imagined I'd be sitting in a parking lot at 11 o'clock at night, pulling up my banking app, with tears burning behind my eyes, freezing that card before he could finish trying to book a car service to save face in front of the Kingsleys. My thumb hovered over the screen for 1 second. Just one. Then I pressed it. Somewhere across town, I imagined my son standing outside that barn phone, pressed to his ear, staring down at a card that no longer worked. I imagined Tressa's face when she realized the truth that the black card her husband liked to flash around wasn't his at all. It never had been. I started the engine and pulled out onto the dark road toward home, my hands finally steady on the wheel. My throat ached with everything I hadn't said back in that barn, everything I'd swallowed down for the sake of keeping the peace. But driving away from that place, I felt something else rising underneath the hurt, something sharper. Something that had been sleeping for 30 years. Because what my son and his bride didn't understand, yet what they wouldn't understand until the phone calls started coming in from every direction, was that I hadn't just built a bakery with these burned, calloused hands. I'd built every single thing they were standing on. And a woman who builds something with her own hands knows exactly how to take it apart. I hadn't even taken my shoes off when my phone lit up again on the kitchen counter. midnight, and I nearly let it ring through to voicemail. Then I saw the name on the screen, Marlene Colby, my oldest friend in this town, the one who's run the farm-to-table restaurant on Elm Street for going on 20 years, the one who was still sitting in that barn when I walked out. Lorraine. She said the second I picked up, breathless, like she'd run straight out to her car to make this call. "Honey, you are not going to believe what just happened." I sank down into the chair at my kitchen table, the same table where I've balanced my books every night for 30 years, and I braced myself. "Tell me." "After you left," Marlene said, "some of the local restaurant owners started asking around. Where's Lorraine? Why isn't she up at the head table? A few of the produce suppliers were asking too, the ones who work with the Kingsley farm." My stomach tightened. I already knew where this was headed, though I couldn't have told you how. "So Vespera's standing there," Marlene went on, going on and on about how you're just the caterer, just some baker they hired for the day. And Tom Radley, the man who supplies half the restaurants in this county, he looks at her and says, "Wait, Lorraine Whitfield." The Lorraine Whitfield who saved the Kingsley farm last year. Tena why, timata sitei. I closed my eyes. 15 months ago, before Corbin had ever brought Tressa home for Sunday dinner, before I even knew her family's name. The Kingsley Dairy and Produce Farm had been one bad season away from losing everything. Their farm supplied butter and cream to half the restaurants I baked for, so when a blight wiped out their orchard and their milk contracts started falling through, I felt the ripple before anyone had to ask for help. I'd spent 2 solid weeks on the phone connecting them with new buyers up and down the valley, vouching for their product, with my own name, my own 30 years of reputation in this business. I did it because that is what you do in a small-town supply chain. You protect the people who feed into your work, and they protect you back. Nobody at that farm ever knew my name was attached to any of it. I never told them. I never told anyone. "Vespera's face," Marlene said, and I could hear the grin in her voice even through the phone. "Lorraine, I have never in my life seen a woman go that pale that fast. She just stood there with her mouth open, and everybody around her was waiting for an answer she didn't have." My hands had started trembling again, but not from the ache of that folding chair this time. Something different was rising in my chest, something I hadn't let myself feel in years. Not triumph exactly. More like the quiet weight of finally being seen, even secondhand, even through a phone call at midnight. "She tried to laugh it off," Marlene continued. "Said something about how generous local businesses are, how it takes a village. But Tom wasn't having it. He said, 'No, ma'am, I mean specifically Lorraine. She's the one who called me personally. She's the one who saved your farm.'" I gripped the edge of the kitchen table with my free hand, knuckles locking around the wood like it was the only solid thing left in the room. 30 years of building relationships one handshake at a time, and I'd never once expected any of it to matter to people like the Kingsleys. I'd never wanted credit. I'd only ever wanted to help. "Lorraine," Marlene said, her voice softening now. "Are you all right? I heard about the seating. I heard about the chair." My throat closed up tight, and for a moment I couldn't answer her. I pictured myself standing in that barn corner, the smell of bleach thick in the air, my son's eyes fixed on his shoes, while his wife called me a +1 in front of 200 people. I thought about the years of 4 a.m. mornings, the burn scars across my knuckles, the wedding cake I'd built with these same hands that were now shaking around my phone. "I'll be all right," I said, and my voice cracked right down the middle on the last word. "You call me if you need anything," Marlene said. "I mean it, anytime." After we hung up, I sat there at my kitchen table for a long while, staring out the dark window toward the road that led eventually all the way out to Lake Willoughby. Toward the cottage I'd spent years paying off after my husband died, the one I'd planned to hand over to Corbin and Tressa that very night as a wedding gift deed and all. They didn't know yet what I'd started putting into motion weeks ago, back when I first noticed the way Corbin talked about that cottage to his friends at a barbecue, already calling it our place, like I'd already signed it over. Back when Tressa asked one too many questions about what the bakery was worth, and I found out through Marlene that she'd been sending photos of the cottage to a real estate agent, measuring rooms, planning renovations, on a house she didn't own. That was when I picked up the phone and called my attorney for the first time, not out of anger, but out of the slow, sickening recognition that my son and his bride had already divided up my life between them before the wedding invitations were even mailed. I picked up my phone one more time before bed, scrolling to a number I hadn't called in nearly a month, my real estate attorney. It was far too late to call tonight, but come morning there was one piece of unfinished business I intended to finally close. Corbin would tell me all of this later days, after his voice still shaking with a fury he had no right to. But I've pieced together every detail of that night so many times since I can practically see it myself. They pulled into the gravel driveway at Lake Willoughby a little after midnight, still dressed in their wedding clothes. Tressa's silk train dragging through the dirt behind her as she climbed out of the car. The cottage sat dark against the water porch light, off the same porch light I used to leave burning every single night for 30 years whenever I stayed out there alone after my husband passed. Corbin punched the code into the electronic lock, the same 4 digits he'd known since he was a teenager. Nothing happened. He tried again, slower this time, his thumb pressing hard against each number. Still nothing. Maybe the battery died, Tressa said, according to Corbin already pulling out her phone to use as a flashlight. That's when they noticed the boxes. A few cardboard boxes they'd shipped ahead weeks earlier. Things they'd planned to unpack once they moved in sat stacked neatly on the covered porch, taped shut, lined up like someone had arranged them with care. Not thrown out, not abandoned, placed there deliberately by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. The porch light suddenly flicked on. The front door opened, and standing there in matching plaid pajamas were a retired couple in their 60s, a man and woman Corbin had never seen in his life. The woman held a small flashlight of her own, squinting out at the 2 strangers standing on what used to be my porch. "Can I help you?" the man asked, his voice wary, one hand still resting on the doorframe. Corbin later told me he just stood there on the steps, completely frozen, staring at a stranger standing in a home he'd been promised his entire adult life. Tressa grabbed his arm hard enough to leave marks whispering his name over and over, like that might make the man disappear. "This is my mother's house," Corbin finally managed to say. "I don't understand who you are." The woman's face softened and she stepped forward a little. "Oh, honey, we closed on this place 3 days ago. Lorraine Whitfield sold it to us. Sweetest woman. Are you her son?" 3 days. The words hit Corbin like a fist to the chest. He told me, though, at the time, all he could manage was a single word. "What?" I need to explain something here because I know exactly what confused them both that night. In real estate, closing is the final legal step where ownership officially transfers from seller to buyer. All the paperwork gets signed, the deed gets recorded with the county, and the new owners get their keys. It isn't something that happens overnight. It takes weeks of inspections, appraisals, title searches, before that final signature ever gets put to paper. I'd started that process nearly 2 months before the wedding quietly on my own, long before either of them ever noticed anything was wrong. Tressa collapsed onto the porch steps right there in her wedding dress mascara, running black down her cheeks in the cold night air. Corbin told me she wouldn't stop crying great heaving sobs that shook her whole body, saying over and over that this couldn't be happening, that this house was supposed to be theirs. The retired couple, God bless them, offered to let them come inside and call someone, but Corbin refused. He just stood there in the driveway staring up at windows that used to be mine, trying to understand how the mother he thought he knew could have done something like this without a single word of warning. But there was a warning. There were dozens of warnings spread out across months I'm sure neither of them ever bothered to notice, because they were both too busy assuming that house already belonged to them. Tressa finally pulled herself up off the steps, her whole body trembling mascara smeared halfway down her face, and grabbed Corbin's arm again. Her voice cracked wide open when she spoke, this time raw, in a way he said he'd never heard from her before. "We can't go back to that hotel," she said. "We can't. There's something I need to tell you first." Corbin told me his stomach turned to ice right there in that driveway, because something in the way she said it made him understand before she even opened her mouth again that whatever came next was going to be so much worse than a locked door and a stranger's porch light. They sat down together on the cold front steps of a house that no longer belonged to either of them, the lake stretching out dark and silent behind them, and Tressa began to talk. Corbin told me about that conversation 3 days later, sitting across from me at my kitchen table with his tie long gone and dark circles carved so deep under his eyes they looked like bruises. Even then, retelling it secondhand, his voice broke apart in places he couldn't quite hold together, like a loaf pulled out of the oven before the center had time to set. Tressa sat on the cold porch steps that night, her wedding dress ruined with dirt and dew, and she wouldn't look at him at first. She kept twisting her engagement ring around and around her finger. Corbin said over and over like she was trying to unscrew something that wouldn't budge. Her mascara had dried in dark lines down both cheeks, and her breath came out in short, ragged bursts that fogged in the cold lake air. "Remember when I told you I was pregnant?" she finally said. "Back in July." Corbin said his whole body went rigid on those steps, every muscle locking tight at once. Of course he remembered. That single piece of news had turned their easy, unhurried engagement into a frantic 6-week sprint toward a wedding date neither of them had planned to move up. Venues got booked in a hurry. Deposits got rushed. His voice shook when he told me how he'd called me that very week, breathless with excitement, saying they simply couldn't wait any longer, not with a baby on the way. "There wasn't a baby," Tressa said. Corbin told me he just sat there on those steps, the lake wind cutting straight through his tuxedo jacket, like it wasn't even there, his hands gripping his own knees so hard his knuckles went bone white, waiting for the rest of the sentence to somehow make it better. It never came. "I made it up," she said, her voice shaking so hard the words barely held together, each one coming out like it had to fight its way past her teeth. "I needed us married fast, Corbin. I needed into that cottage. You kept talking about your mom handing it over to us after the wedding, how it was practically ours already. And I thought, if we're already married, if we already have a home, nobody could take that away from us." Corbin's hands, he told me, curled into fists so tight his nails cut half-moons into his own palms. "Take what away from who? What are you talking about?" That's when the rest of it came pouring out of her. He said all at once, like a dam finally giving way after months of pressure building behind it. Her parents' farmhouse, the one she'd grown up in, the one with the wrap-around porch and the white shutters she used to brag about in every conversation about her childhood, had received a foreclosure notice the month before their engagement. In this country, a foreclosure notice means the bank has started the legal process to seize a property because the owner has fallen too far behind on mortgage payments. 3 missed payments. That's all it takes. 3 months of silence, and the bank starts the clock. Her family was drowning in debt. Nobody outside their household knew about one phone call away from losing everything they'd spent their whole lives pretending they still had. My parents needed this wedding to look perfect. Tressa said, tears streaking down her face in the porch light, her whole body shaking now with sobs she couldn't hold back any longer. They needed the Kingsley name to still mean something in this town. They needed people to look at us and see a family that was doing fine, not a family that was 3 months away from losing the house I grew up in. She pressed her fists against her eyes, her voice rising now, cracking at every edge. And I needed somewhere safe to land before it all came crashing down around us. I thought if we had the cottage, if we were already married, we could ride it out. We could survive it. I didn't know how else to fix it, Corbin. I didn't know what else to do. Corbin sat beside her on those steps. He told me his mind racing backward through every moment of their engagement, turning each one over like a stone, searching for a single piece of it that had been real. The pregnancy announcement at dinner, the way her eyes had lit up, the way she'd squeezed his hand under the table, the rushed venue booking, the phone calls about flower arrangements that suddenly couldn't wait another week. Even the way she'd pushed so hard for the lakeside cottage, specifically insisting it made more financial sense than renting an apartment in town while they got settled. "You lied about carrying my child," he said, his voice barely above a whisper when he told me this part, his hands flat on my kitchen table like he needed something solid to keep him from falling through the floor. "You lied about that to get me to marry you faster, to get into a house that wasn't even mine to give." Tressa nodded, her whole face crumpling inward, mascara running in dark streaks down toward her chin. "I know how it sounds." "It sounds," Corbin said, and his voice hardened just enough to hold the weight of what came next, "like you never actually wanted to marry me at all. You wanted a house, you wanted an escape hatch, and you used a baby that didn't exist to get both." She didn't deny it. Corbin said the fact that she couldn't even manage a single word to defend herself, not one excuse, not one justification, told him everything he needed to know about the woman he'd married 12 hours earlier. Sitting across from me at my kitchen table days later, my son put his face in both hands, his shoulders shaking with sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than his chest, somewhere closer to the foundation. "I don't know who I married, Mom," he said, his voice muffled and raw. "I don't know who that woman even is. I want to be honest with you here because I promised myself I would be honest through all of this. Part of me sitting there watching my son fall apart over a marriage built on a lie felt something close to grief for him. He was still my boy. I had raised him to believe in honesty and showing up for people, and somewhere along the way he'd lost sight of both. But another part of me, a colder, harder part, I didn't much like admitting to thought about a folding chair pushed against a bathroom door. I thought about a photograph of a discount cake box circulating through 200 phones. I thought about how quickly my son had chosen his own comfort over defending his mother, and I wondered how much of what happened on that porch was punishment he'd earned one way or another long before Tressa ever opened her mouth. He looked up at me then, his eyes red-rimmed and desperate for something I wasn't sure I had left to give him. "What do I do now?" I folded my hands on the table in front of me and thought carefully before I answered, because the truth was I already had a call to make that morning, one I hadn't told him about yet, and it had nothing to do with saving his marriage. I was still sitting across from my son at that kitchen table, the coffee between us gone cold when his phone buzzed against the wood. He glanced at it, wiped his face with the back of his hand, and pushed it away without answering. "You should get some rest," I told him. "We can talk about the house another time." But Corbin shook his head, and something in his expression shifted right in front of me. Grief curdling into anger the way milk turns when you leave it out too long. One moment he was broken. The next he needed somebody to blame, and I was the only one sitting at the table. He stood up from the table so fast his chair scraped hard against the floor, the sound cutting through the kitchen like a knife across a plate. "The house," he said, his voice cracking wide open. "Mom, that house was Dad's. It was supposed to come to me. How could you sell it out from under me without saying one single word?" I felt my own chest tighten a slow squeeze beneath my ribs, but I kept my hands folded calmly on the table in front of me. I had been waiting for this, not hoping for it, but expecting it the way you expect a timer to go off when you know exactly how long something's been in the oven. "Sit back down, Corbin." "No," he said, and his voice rose louder, now sharper, years of grief and entitlement, all tangled together in one furious breath. His fist came down on the edge of the counter, hard enough to rattle the dish rack. "You had no right. That was Dad's legacy, his son's legacy. You just erased it like it meant nothing to you, like Dad meant nothing to you." That last sentence hit me square in the sternum. I felt it land, felt the heat of it spread across my chest like a burn from an oven door swinging open too fast. My husband had been dead for 15 years, and my son had just used his name as a weapon at my own kitchen table. I looked up at my son standing there in my kitchen, his tuxedo shirt still wrinkled from a night he'd never sleep off his eyes, bloodshot and furious, and I felt something inside me finally go still and steady the way it does, right before I balance a set of books that's been off for far too long. "Sit down," I said again, quieter this time, but with enough weight behind it that he actually obeyed. His knees seemed to give out more than he chose to sit. "I'm going to tell you something your father never got the chance to explain to you himself, and you're going to listen to every word of it, because I am only going to say this once." Corbin sank back into his chair, his jaw tight, his eyes still wet and furious, his hands gripping the edge of the table, like it might flip over if he let go. "When your father and I bought that cottage 32 years ago," I said, "we bought it together as joint tenants with right of survivorship. Do you know what that means, Corbin?" He shook his head slowly, staring at me like I'd started speaking another language entirely. "It means the house was never something either of us could leave behind separately in a will," I said. "Under the law in every single state in this country, when two people own property as joint tenants with right of survivorship, the moment one owner passes away, the entire property automatically transfers to the surviving owner, not through probate court, not through an inheritance process, not through a lawyer or a judge or anyone's signature. It happens instantly, automatically, the moment the death certificate gets filed with the county recorder's office. The surviving owner becomes the sole and complete owner, period." I paused to let that settle, watching my son's face change by degrees, the anger slowly giving way to something that looked almost like vertigo. "When your father died 15 years ago," I continued, keeping my voice as level as the bottom of a bread pan, "that house became mine and mine alone. Fully and completely. There was never a version of events where you inherited a single square foot of it, Corbin. Not then, not now, not ever, unless I chose of my own free will to give it to you myself. But you always said—" Corbin started, and his voice had gone small now, almost childlike, stripped of all the fury that had been holding it up a moment before. "You always said someday it would be ours. You and Dad both said that. I grew up hearing it." My throat tightened hard around the words I was about to say because they were true, and true things are the heaviest things you can carry. "And I meant that," I said. "For years, Corbin, I meant every single word of it. When your father was alive, we talked about it at that same kitchen table you're sitting at right now. We said someday when the boy's ready, we'll hand him the keys and let him start his life out there by the water. That was the dream. That was always the dream." I tucked my hands under the table and locked them together in my lap, because they'd started to shake again and I didn't want him to see it. "After your father died, I paid off the mortgage on that cottage myself. Every single dollar, working 4 a.m. shifts at that bakery for 11 straight years, pulling bread out of an oven while it was still dark outside, driving the delivery route in snowstorms because the restaurants needed their orders, and I needed the income. I never once complained about it to you. I never once asked you to help. I never once told you how close I came some months to not being able to make the payment." Corbin's eyes dropped to the table, his shoulders curling inward like he was trying to fold himself down to nothing. "I did all of that," I said, "because I thought I was building something for this family, something for you, a place where you'd bring your children someday the way your father brought you. a place where the Whitfield name would mean something for another generation. I stopped for a moment because my voice was starting to shake now despite everything I'd promised myself about staying calm. I could feel tears building behind my eyes, hot and pressing, and I blinked them back hard because I was not finished yet. "I was going to hand you those keys myself," I said. "Last night, at your wedding, I had the deed transfer papers sitting right here in my handbag." I put my hand on the handbag still hanging from the back of my chair where it had sat untouched since I'd walked in the door the night before. Signed by my attorney, notarized, ready to file. All I had to do was give them to you and Tressa as a wedding gift, and that cottage would have been yours by Monday morning. Corbin's chin buckled, and a sound came out of him that wasn't quite a word, something between a gasp and a groan. "Then why didn't you—" His voice cracked clean in half on the question split right down the middle, like a board with a fault line running through it. I looked at my son, this grown man sitting across from me with tears finally breaking free down his face, his hands trembling on the table between us, and I let the space between his question and my answer stretch out just long enough for him to feel the full weight of what I was about to say. "Because you let your wife call me a +1 at my own son's wedding," I said. And each word came out slow and deliberate like I was laying bricks. "Because you stood there 3 feet away from me and you watched her walk me to a folding chair next to a bathroom door, and you didn't say a single word in my defense. Not one word, Corbin, not one." He put both hands over his face, his whole body shaking now with something that sounded like it was tearing its way out of him from the inside, raw and ragged and uncontrollable. His shoulders heaved. His breath came in broken, gulping pieces. And I sat there and watched my son grieve the loss of something he'd never actually owned, something he'd only ever assumed would be handed to him, and I thought about how different this kitchen table looked tonight compared to all the mornings I'd sat here alone balancing books, paying bills, keeping this family standing on a foundation nobody ever bothered to look at. I didn't reach across the table to comfort him. I couldn't. Not yet. Not with the ache still sitting so raw and open in my own chest, so close to the surface that one wrong movement would have broken me wide open right there beside him. My phone buzzed against the counter behind me. I glanced at the screen expecting another apology text, another excuse, another person trying to smooth over something that couldn't be smoothed. Instead, I saw a name I hadn't spoken to directly in years. The wedding planner who'd stood beside that folding chair the night before with an apology written across every inch of her face. Dana was calling, and something in my gut told me that whatever she had to say was going to change everything I thought I knew about that chair. Before I reveal who was really behind that folding chair, drop the word mother in the comments so I know you're still here with me. What comes next broke me harder than anything that night ever did. And a gentle heads up, some parts of what follows are shaped for storytelling and may not be entirely factual. If that's not for you, feel free to step away right here. Corbin was still sitting across from me, his face blotchy and wet when I picked up my phone off the counter and answered it. "Lorraine," Dana said, her voice tight and rushed like she'd been building up the courage to make this call all morning and was afraid she'd lose it if she slowed down. "I'm so sorry to bother you the day after everything. I wouldn't be calling if I didn't think you absolutely needed to see this." "See what, Dana?" There was a pause on the line, the kind that comes right before someone hands you something they know is going to hurt. "I need to send you something first," she said. "Just give me 1 second. Are you near your email?" I set the phone down on the table between us, switched it to speaker without thinking twice, and pulled my laptop closer. Across the table, Corbin sat up a little straighter, wiping at his face with his sleeve, watching me with red, swollen eyes. He had no idea what was coming. Neither did I, not really, even though some part of me, some deep, tired part that had been adding up small numbers for months, already knew the total was going to be worse than anything I'd prepared for. "Okay," Dana said, "it's in your inbox now. Lorraine, I want you to know I went back and forth about sending this all morning. I almost deleted it twice. But then I kept seeing you standing in that corner next to the restroom, and I thought about how you looked when you turned around and walked out. and I decided that if it were my mother, I'd want someone to tell her the truth. My fingers found the trackpad. The email opened, a screenshot slightly blurry of a group text thread, the kind every wedding planner sets up weeks before the event to coordinate logistics, everyone tossed into one chain so nobody misses a detail. Corbin, Tressa, 2 bridesmaids whose names I didn't recognize, and Dana herself added to the group the week before to help manage last-minute changes. I found it while I was cleaning up the group chat this morning. Dana said, her voice cracking slightly now, scrolling back through old messages, archiving vendor confirmations. And then I hit this one, and my stomach just dropped. I started reading, and the kitchen around me seemed to go very far away. The message was time-stamped 2 days before the wedding, sent at 11:47 at night. It came from Corbin's number. Seat my mom by the bathroom. She dresses like she just walked out of the kitchen, and her hands look rough as sandpaper. If she's at the main table, it's going to embarrass me in front of the Kingsleys and ruin every good photo we take. I read it once fast, the way your eyes move across a receipt you already know is wrong. Then I read it again, slower, my eyes catching on every single word, like they might somehow rearrange themselves into something else, something that made more sense than what was sitting right in front of me on that bright screen. Rough as sandpaper. My son had typed those words about the hands that used to smooth the hair off his forehead when he had a fever. The hands that packed his lunch every morning for 12 years of school. The hands that gripped the steering wheel through a snowstorm the night I drove him to the emergency room when he was 9 and his appendix nearly burst. Underneath the message, I could see 2 small reaction icons, a thumbs up from Tressa, a heart from one of the bridesmaids. 2 taps on a screen, and my son's request to humiliate his own mother became a group consensus. Not a single person in that chain had pushed back. Not one soul had typed, "Wait, that's his mother." Not one soul had said, "Are you sure about this?" Corbin's hands are rough as sandpaper, too. I know because I used to hold them when he was small enough to need me to walk him across the street. I know because I watched those same small hands grow into the ones that typed this message at 11:47 on a Thursday night, 2 days before I was supposed to sit beside him at the happiest table of his life. "Mom," Corbin said from across the table, his voice small, uncertain, leaning forward to try to read the screen. "What is it? What did she send you?" I didn't answer him with words. I turned my laptop screen around slowly, the way you'd turn a mirror towards someone who doesn't know they have something on their face, and I slid it across the table toward him. I watched my son's face change as he read it. I watched the blood drain slowly out of his cheeks, starting at the jawline and working its way up toward his eyes until his whole face had gone the color of cold wax. I watched his mouth fall open, then close, then open again like a man trying to breathe underwater. "Mom, I can explain." He started, but his voice was already breaking apart before he finished the sentence, crumbling at the edges the way bread does when it's been left out too long. "You told me it was Tressa," I said, and my own voice came out flatter and colder than I'd ever heard it come out of my own mouth. Flatter than it was the day I identified my husband's body at the hospital. Colder than the morning I signed the papers to bury him. "Last night in that barn, I stood there and watched you say nothing while she called me a +1. And I told myself, at least it wasn't him. At least my son didn't want this. At least he was just too weak to stop it. Mom, please let me just—" "But it was you," I said, cutting him off my hand, starting to tremble now against the tabletop so hard I had to curl my fingers around the edge of the table and hold on. "The whole time, from the very beginning. It was your idea, Corbin. Your words, your decision. You're the one who decided your own mother's hands were too embarrassing to sit near your new family." "I panicked," he said, and his voice broke wide open on the word, his head dropping into his hands, his shoulders heaving with sobs that finally broke loose from somewhere so deep in his chest it sounded like something tearing. "The Kingsleys, they're all so polished. Mom, their nails are always done, their clothes always match, and I looked at you one night when you came over for dinner, and your apron strings were still tied around your waist, because you'd come straight from the shop and flour was still in your hair, and I thought, what are they going to think of me when they see where I come from? My breath caught in my throat like a fish hook, sharp and sudden. "Where you come from," I repeated, and I heard my own voice go very quiet, the kind of quiet that isn't soft at all. "Where you come from is a brick oven and a woman who got up before dawn every single day for 30 years, so you could sleep in a warm bed and go to a good school and never once worry about whether the lights would still be on when you got home." Corbin's sobs were shaking the whole table now, his coffee cup rattling in its saucer, his words coming out in shattered pieces between breaths. I know, Mom. I hate myself for it. I've hated myself for it since the second I hit send. I almost deleted it. I should have deleted it. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I sat there and let him fall apart across the table from me, and something inside my chest finally completely broke loose from whatever had been holding it together for 30 years. Not from anger anymore. Anger I could have handled. Anger is clean. This was grief. Real bottomless blackwater grief, the kind that comes from finally understanding that the child you raised with your own two burned, scarred, calloused hands had grown into someone capable of typing those very hands into a text message as a reason for shame. I stood up slowly from the table, my legs unsteady beneath me, and walked to the kitchen window that looks out over the bakery's back parking lot, the same lot I've pulled into every morning at 4 o'clock for 30 straight years. The same lot where I once sat in my car and cried for 20 minutes after my husband's funeral before I pulled myself together, walked inside and started the ovens, because the bread orders don't mourn with you. Behind me, I could hear Corbin still crying, still trying to string together apologies that no longer fit together words that kept breaking in his mouth before he could finish them. I pressed my palm flat against the cold glass and stared out at that empty lot. And for the first time since I'd walked out of that barn, I felt something settle over me that wasn't grief and wasn't rage either. Something quieter, something with weight to it, something final. "Mom," Corbin said behind me, his voice raw and ragged. "Say something, please, anything." I kept my hand on the glass and watched a delivery truck pull slowly through the lot, the same route my bread van takes every morning at 5:15. And I thought about the 30 years of mornings that had made this bakery what it was, and the one text message that had unmade everything I thought I knew about my son. I didn't turn around, not yet, not until I'd had time to sit with what I now knew and decide once and for all exactly what a woman does with a son who was ashamed of the very hands that raised him. Corbin left my kitchen that afternoon without another word. I heard the front door close, heard his car start in the driveway, and I stood at that window until the sound of the engine faded into nothing. Then I locked the door, turned off the lights, and went to bed at 2 in the afternoon for the first time in my adult life. The next 3 days passed slowly and covered in flour. I got up at 4 in the morning. I turned on the ovens. I mixed dough with hands that still trembled a little every time I stopped moving, long enough to think about that screenshot about my son's words typed out in black and white for a group of strangers to read. Rough as sandpaper. But I kept my hands moving anyway, pressing and folding and shaping, because that is what these hands were built for, and I was not about to let a text message from a 32-year-old man undo what 30 years of mornings had made them. On Monday, I caught myself standing at the kitchen window staring at nothing for so long that the timer went off and I nearly burned an entire rack of sourdough. That hasn't happened to me since the week my husband died. Denise pulled the trays out without a word and set a fresh coffee on the counter next to my elbow, and I looked at her and said, "I'm fine." And she looked right back at me and said, "No, you're not, but you will be." On Tuesday, a woman I'd never met walked into the shop, ordered a loaf of pumpernickel, and as I was wrapping it, she reached across the counter and put her hand over mine. "I heard what happened," she said, her eyes filling up. "My daughter-in-law did something similar at my grandson's christening, seated me behind a pillar so I wouldn't be in the photos." She squeezed my hand once hard and left without saying anything else. I stood behind that counter and held onto the edge of the display case with both hands, and my chest ached with something that wasn't grief anymore. It was the strange bruising weight of being seen by a stranger who understood exactly what it cost. By Wednesday morning, the whole county had seen it too. It was Denise who brought the phone to me, holding it out like it might bite her, her eyebrows halfway up her forehead. "Lorraine," she said, "you need to look at this, right now." I wiped flour off my palms and took the phone. She'd pulled up a community page, one of those local groups where everybody in town shares opinions about potholes and school board meetings, and whose dog got loose again. Except that morning, nobody was talking about dogs. A photograph sat at the top of the feed. I recognized it immediately. A yellow supermarket cake box with a bright sticker on the lid that read, "Manager's Special 50% off." The same box that had been rushed into my son's wedding reception the night I took my 5-tier cake home. Somebody had posted it with a caption that read, "When the groom's mother gets seated by the bathroom while the bride's family passes off discount cake as custom made. Millbrook, what are we even doing?" Below that, over 200 comments and climbing. "How far has this spread?" I asked Denise, my throat tightening so hard I could barely get the question out. "Everywhere," she said, her voice dropping low like she was delivering a diagnosis. "Every restaurant group, every church newsletter email list, every neighborhood page in the county. Marlene said it jumped to 3 different towns overnight. People are tagging your bakery page, Lorraine. They're leaving 5-star reviews just to say they support you." My stomach churned with every swipe. Some people defended the family. Most did not. Strangers who had never set foot in my bakery were writing paragraphs about respect and gratitude and how they'd never treat their mother-in-law that way. Women my age were sharing their own stories underneath one after another, each one a small painful echo of mine. A retired school teacher from 2 towns over wrote that she'd spent 20 years paying her daughter-in-law's student loans and got seated at the children's table at Thanksgiving. A nurse from Montpelier said her son's wife had cropped her out of every family photo on social media for 3 years straight. Story after story, folding chair after folding chair, each one a different shape of the same wound. And then I found Tressa's replies. She hadn't posted from her personal account. She'd used her company profile, the public relations firm where she worked as a media coordinator, the account with her employer's logo stamped across the top of every single post. And she wasn't just responding politely. She was fighting hard. "Mind your own business, you small-town gossips. You don't know the full story, and you never will. If my mother-in-law wanted a better seat, she should have dressed like she belonged at a wedding, not a flower factory. Anyone sharing this photo is committing defamation, and I will be pursuing legal action personally." I read every single one of them sitting on my stool in the back kitchen, with flour still dusting my apron, and my hands gripped the edges of that phone so hard my knuckles turned white. Not because I was angry at Tressa, I was past that now, but because I could see exactly what was about to happen to her, the way you can see a cake about to slide off a tilted board, and despite everything, some stubborn, aching part of me wished she'd been smart enough to stop typing. Marlene called me that afternoon, her voice breathless, with the kind of energy that comes from watching someone else's disaster unfold in real time. "It's done," Marlene said. Her company pulled her access to the account about an hour ago. One of their biggest local clients called in, threatening to drop them because Tressa insulted her directly in the comment thread, called her a nosy housewife, Lorraine, a paying client, somebody who brings in real money to that firm. "What did the company do?" I asked, even though I already knew. "Suspended her indefinitely," Marlene said. "Effective immediately. Violation of professional conduct standards, unauthorized use of corporate social media for personal disputes, and client relationship damage." That's the official language straight from their HR department. In most states, including Vermont, An employer operating under at-will terms can suspend or terminate an employee for conduct that damages the company's reputation without needing to go through any extended process. Tressa didn't just violate a guideline, Lorraine. She torched a client relationship using the company's own megaphone. I closed my eyes and leaned forward until my forehead nearly touched the cool steel prep table, both hands gripping the edge so hard my wrists ached. I thought about Tressa sitting somewhere right now with no job, no house, and a marriage built on a lie she'd confessed to 3 nights ago on the steps of a cottage that no longer belonged to anyone in this family. Somebody at the firm leaked the internal memo to the same community page. Marlene added, her voice quieter now. "It's all out there." "Are you all right?" she asked after a pause. "I'm not celebrating if that's what you're asking," I said, and I meant it down to the marrow. I didn't want any of this to happen this way. She's still the woman my son married. She's still somebody's daughter. "I know you didn't, honey, but I'm not going to carry it either," I said, my voice steadying the way it does when I've finally found the right temperature for a difficult dough. "Not anymore. I've carried enough for this family. 30 years of enough." After we hung up, I stood alone in my kitchen, the ovens humming their low, steady song behind me, the same sound that's kept me company every morning since I was 33 years old and terrified and alone with a child and a brick oven and no idea if any of it was going to work. I looked down at my hands under the fluorescent light, the scars from 100 burns, the calluses from 10,000 mornings, the permanent flour stains in the creases of my knuckles that no amount of scrubbing has ever fully removed. Rough as sandpaper. Embarrassing. These hands had built every single thing my son had ever stood on, and he had typed those words about them with the same fingers I taught him to hold a pencil with. I was still standing there turning that thought over in my mind like a stone I couldn't put down when the bell above the bakery's front door chimed. Denise appeared in the kitchen doorway a moment later, her face caught somewhere between alarm and pity. "Lorraine," she said quietly, "your son is here. He's got flowers." My chest seized up tight, one hard squeeze beneath my ribs. I shook my head slowly without lifting my eyes from the prep table. "Tell him I'm not available," I said. "Tell him if he has something to say, he can come back when he's ready to say it without a prop in his hand." I heard Denise's footsteps cross the shop floor, the low murmur of voices, and then the bell chiming again as the door swung shut. The flowers, I found out later, he left on the counter next to the register. Denise threw them out before I finished the morning's bread run. I didn't ask her to. She just knew. But I knew, standing there in my kitchen, with flour on my apron and 30 years of work humming in the walls around me, that he would be back. And when he came, it wouldn't be with flowers. It would be with his hand out. That was the part I was bracing myself for. Nearly 2 weeks went by before that bakery bell chimed for him again. After Tressa lost her job, the two of them had burned through whatever cash they had left inside of a week, hopping from one roadside motel to the next, each one cheaper and smaller than the last. They stayed together, not because the marriage was holding, but because neither of them could afford to fall apart separately. I knew this because Marlene heard it through the same grapevine that had carried the cake photo across 3 counties. I didn't ask for updates. They arrived anyway, like weather reports for a storm I could see from my window, but no longer stood in. There were moments during those 2 weeks when I caught myself reaching for the phone. Not to call Corbin exactly, but to check. The way you check on a wound you know hasn't healed yet, just to see if it's gotten worse. Every time I put the phone back down and went back to my dough, because checking is just another word for carrying, and I had promised myself I was done. Denise noticed. She didn't say much because Denise has never been the type to say what she can show instead. But she started coming in 15 minutes earlier every morning, setting up the mixers, before I even got to the kitchen, making sure the coffee was hot before my hands had time to shake. One morning, she left a note on the prep table. Just 3 words in her blocky handwriting. "We've got you." I folded it into my apron pocket and kept it there the rest of the day. And then one Tuesday afternoon in the middle of October, the bell rang and Denise appeared in the kitchen doorway, drying her hands slow on her apron, her jaw set tight. "He's back," she said. "No flowers this time." I dried my hands on my apron, slow and deliberate, and walked out to the front of the shop. Through the glass display case, I could see the afternoon light falling across the bread shelves, the same shelves I'd built with my husband 30 years ago, sanded and stained by hand. On a weekend, we couldn't afford to hire anyone. Corbin stood near the register, hands empty, shoulders hunched forward like a man bracing for a hit he knew was coming. He'd lost weight. His shirt collar was loose around his neck, and the skin under his eyes had gone the color of old dishwater. His shoes were scuffed at the toes, and his jacket had a coffee stain near the cuff he hadn't bothered to clean. He looked like a man who hadn't slept properly in 2 weeks, which I suppose he was. "Mom," he said, and his voice wobbled right there on the single syllable, cracking at the edges like a cheap plate. "I came to apologize. For real this time. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking you to hear me out." I leaned against the counter and folded my arms across my chest. "I'm listening." He swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing, and launched into a speech that sounded rehearsed, polished in places, stumbling in others, like he'd practiced it in a motel bathroom mirror before driving over. He was sorry about the chair. He was sorry about the text message. He was sorry about what he'd written about my hands. He was sorry he'd been too much of a coward to stand up for me when Tressa called me a +1 in front of 200 people. I let him talk. I didn't interrupt. I didn't nod. I just stood there with my arms folded and watched my son try to sell me something he hadn't earned. And I thought about how strange it was watching a grown man apologize with the same rhythm he used to use when he'd broken a window with a baseball and wanted to get ahead of the punishment. When he finally ran out of rehearsed words, when his shoulders sagged and his hands hung limp at his sides, he looked down at the floor and the speech fell away, and what was left underneath was the raw, unpolished thing he'd actually come to say. "Mom, Tressa, and I are about to get kicked out of the motel. We can't make the deposit on an apartment without help. We've called everyone. Her parents are underwater on their own mortgage. Nobody on her side has anything to spare." His voice cracked open again, and this time there was no rehearsal holding it together. "Could you spot us enough to get into a place just enough to get on our feet? That's all I'm asking." There it was, the whole visit boiled down to its bones. Not a son coming to make amends. A man with an empty wallet standing in the shop his mother built, asking for one more withdrawal from the bank he'd spent his whole life drawing from. My chest ached so deeply I had to press my hand flat against it to keep breathing steady. I looked at my son's empty hands hanging at his sides, the same hands that used to reach for mine every morning on the walk to school. The same hands that had typed a text message calling mine, rough as sandpaper. The same hands that had never once in 32 years reached for a mixing bowl or a mop handle or an oven door at 4 o'clock in the morning. "Corbin," I said, and I kept my voice low and even, because if I let it rise even half a note, I wasn't sure I could hold it together. "Stop." His face crumpled, his jaw, trembling eyes flooding before he could blink it away. "Mom, please. We've got nowhere to go. You've got a degree I paid for," I said. "You've got 2 working hands. You've got everything you need to build your own life the same way I built mine. I started this bakery with $1,100 and a secondhand oven, Corbin. Nobody spotted me a deposit. Nobody covered my rent while I figured things out. I figured them out because I had to, because your father was gone and you were 8 years old, and the electricity bill didn't care how tired I was." His chin buckled and a sound came out of him that wasn't quite a word, more like something tearing loose from the bottom of his chest. "But I am not writing another check," I said, my own voice starting to tremble now, despite every wall I'd built around it. To a son who put his mother next to a toilet because he was ashamed of what her hands looked like. He stood there with his arms hanging limp at his sides, tears spilling down both cheeks, his mouth opening and closing without sound, finding its way out. Behind him through the front window, I could see the parking lot where he'd left his car, running the same car I'd helped him make payments on 2 years ago, the last payment I would ever make for him. "I love you, Corbin," I said, and my own voice broke wide open on his name, tears burning hot behind my eyes. "I have loved you since the first second they put you in my arms, and that hasn't changed. but loving you doesn't mean funding you anymore. It can't. Not after what I saw in that text message. I paused. My hands were shaking against the counter, and I wrapped them around my own wrists to hold them still. Now please go. He stood there for one more second, his whole body swaying slightly like the ground had shifted under him. Then he turned around and walked out through the front door without looking back. The bell chimed once behind him, clear and final, and then the shop went quiet except for the ovens humming in the back. I stood behind that counter for a long time, both hands pressed flat against the glass, watching his car pull out of the lot through blurred eyes. Denise came out from the kitchen at some point. I don't know when. She didn't say anything. She just stood beside me close enough that I could feel her shoulder near mine, and we watched the empty parking lot together until the lights started to fade. That evening I called my attorney, not the real estate one this time, my estate planner. I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee I never touched and told her I wanted to begin the process of transitioning the bakery to my employees through an ownership plan, what she called an ESOP, an employee stock ownership plan. For those who don't know, it's a legal structure that lets a business owner transfer shares to the people who actually show up every day and do the work, the ones who earn it not by blood but by showing up. Denise, my morning crew, the delivery drivers who've known my route list by heart for a decade, the people who had never once looked at my hands and seen anything other than the reason the bread was always ready on time. Then I told her to update my will. Everything I had, left the savings, the proceeds from the lakeside cottage, whatever remained after I was done living my life on my own terms, would go to the local vocational training fund, a program that teaches young people how to work with their hands, how to build something real, how to earn their own way the same way I had earned mine. Not to my son, not anymore. When I hung up the phone, I sat there at the table and stared at my hands under the kitchen light. Scarred, calloused, flour in every crease, the hands my son called embarrassing. These hands had built a business, raised a child, buried a husband, and paid off a house. And now, for the first time in 30 years, these hands were finally going to do something just for me. 1 month later, a delivery driver knocked on the door of a cramped one-bedroom apartment on the east side of town. Corbin signed for a package with no return address. Inside were 2 gray metal folding chairs, paint-chipped at the edges, the same kind you'd find wedged against a restroom door at a wedding reception. Tucked between them was a handwritten note on bakery stationery, my handwriting steady and clear. For the +1s, use them when your feet get tired. I heard about it from Marlene, who heard it from a neighbor who watched Corbin carry the box inside without saying a word, his wife standing behind him in the doorway, with her arms wrapped around herself like she was cold. I wasn't there to see it. I was already at the Burlington airport with Orson and 2 old friends boarding a flight to Savannah, the first vacation I'd taken in 11 years. First morning in 30 where I didn't set an alarm for 4. First morning where my hands held a boarding pass instead of a bread pan. And Vespera Kingsley, from what Marlene told me, had stopped mentioning my name at her garden club meetings entirely. No more jokes about the baker. No more stories about the caterer they hired for the day. Just a careful, permanent silence where my name used to be the kind that comes when a woman finally understands that the person she looked down on was the same person who kept her whole family from falling. Here is what 30 years of silence taught me. If you build the table, pay for the table, and still get handed a folding chair. The problem was never the chair. The problem was that you kept building for people who never once asked where the wood came from. Don't be like me. Don't wait until your son types your hands into a text message as a reason for shame before you finally stand up and walk out. Your love is not a bank account for people who only visit when they need a withdrawal. I believe God gave me that folding chair not as punishment, but as permission to finally sit down in my own life and take up the space I earned. Every family drama has a moment that splits your life into before and after. Mine was a gray metal chair next to a bathroom door. Walking away from that family drama didn't make me a bad mother. It made me a whole one. And if this family drama taught me anything, it's that the people who truly love you will never be embarrassed by the hands that raised them. If you've ever lived through revenge stories with mom like mine, tell me in the comments. Too many women carry these revenge stories with mom alone. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Hit subscribe and stay with us for more revenge stories with mom right here on this channel. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. A kind reminder, some details in our stories are crafted for storytelling and educational purposes. If this is not your kind of content, feel free to find something that suits you better.